might actually have changed my mind on some of these positions since then. Let's see.
No, you.
Oh, look at it. Oh, back in the day. All right.
Say it with a hard R. Do I look like a fucking bitch to you? Do you think I would puss out on a joke that could be funnier if I went the full mile? Of course not. Well, everyone who's saying yikes in the chat can go fuck yourself right now. If you unironically think that me just saying the N-word alone with my girlfriend in a non-racist context is like yikesy or problematic, then you believe in witchcraft. You believe that the N-word is a...
Everyone spam yikes in chat, quick. We're all better than this now. Everyone spam yikes.
magical spell that you cast with your mouth that makes the world work somehow.
Yeah.
It's a very stupid take.
Your little baby space, and we can have a broader left space, but we can also have a much broader left. But it's interesting.
Oh, we got multiple. Oh, hold on, wait. We have multiple clips being synthesized here. These people have nothing to do with their time. Okay, let's get it.
Appealing to people from all across the spectrum. So people over here might occasionally say retard. Okay, I'll take them saying retard and supporting class emancipation, than I will taking them saying retard and not supporting class emancipation.
Wait, what's wrong with this clip? Wait, we don't need to yikes this one. Hold on. Wait, what's wrong with this clip? I think in this clip, I'm making the argument that in the left, we should be acceptive of people being progressive on different levels, you know? So even if you have like edgy South Park, like dude bros, you know what I mean? Who still say like problematic language, I still think they can have a place in the left as long as we move them over in some positions, and yeah. The clip isn't over, vaush, just something bad. Uh-oh.
Hey, listen, over here. Hey, if you're a what?
They put the unedited tactical N-word on the kill stream after that one. Ah, well, everyone's seen the tactical N-word. I guess it sounds a bit permissive of class reductionism. Now, I've never been pro-class reductionism, but you have to have a transitional space for people who are like edgy dude bros who you want to bring over to the left, because you can't just instantly snap over into adopting all of the normative progressive positions. It takes time, and you're going to have questions and disagreements and arguments. You have to find a place where people can, you know, move over. Okay, so let's see. If I see the tactical N-word coming, I'll mute the set. You've all heard. We've all taken our lesson in tactics. Okay.
White dude, this over here. This is the circle for white dudes who really love saying nigga. They love saying, no, I'm a nigga. Okay, this is where they are.
Yikes!
Okay?
Say it in chat. Everyone, yikes!
I would rather have them be here.
You realize they were N-words in the...
And then here's the tactical N-word. Is the tactical N-word the last clip? Oh! Okay, we got the tactical N-word clip, which everyone has seen. We'll just move past that one. Okay, we got the last one, okay? Oh, by the way, I think that it was cringe of me, and I was being overly edgy by actually saying the N-word with a soft A, but I agree with the sentiment of this clip. Do you guys agree with the sentiment of this clip? I think this one's fine. The being able to have, like, a transition. There are cringy white guys who say the N-word. I don't think they should be. I don't think they should be part of the broader left, because if you're running around like that, you're probably doing more harm than good. But we can't also ignore them, you know?
Vaush is about to defend saying the N-word. I have defended.
Wait, hold on.
About to defend saying the N-word. I have defended saying the N-word before. I said it on the kill stream. I posted a comment in the section defending it. I stand by my use of the N-word in that respect.
Yeah. Well, I no longer stand by that. Yeah, I think that was probably a donation. Yeah. There we go. Lord, just stop saying it. People act like I say the N-word on stream literally all the time, when there's like one incident that everyone points to. Vaush, can you please explain why you were wrong in the first clip? Yeah, sure. So the first clip here, this is basically the making jokes in private clip, okay? So I'm going to give you two positions that seem contradictory. However, I think they're actually perfectly in sync with each other, okay? Hold on, let me move myself down. So stick with me here, okay? I'm going to ask you to engage with a little bit more, but I trust you guys, okay? So here are two positions that I have, okay? One of them I know for a fact is the case, and one of them is like an optical tactical position that I have, okay? So here's the thing that I know for sure, all right? When you use certain types of language, you reinforce certain types of behaviors and beliefs in your mind, okay? Now, I know this because do you remember how for a while I didn't say the R slur at all on stream? And then I started saying it more, and I was defensive of that. And then lately, I don't say it at all again. Do you remember that? Any long-term fans? There was like a period where it went up and then it went back down. Okay? The reason why it went up for that time is because I was A, watching media that used that word, and B, talking with people who use that word. And because I had immersed myself in an environment where those words were used, I used it too. Now, on its own, a tendency towards using certain language doesn't actually necessarily have to reflect on what you believe. It's entirely possible, and I know everyone, you can disagree with this if you want, but I don't think that reading Tom Sawyer out loud makes you a racist. I don't think reading out quotes that include the N-word make you a racist. I don't think quoting other people make you a racist. I don't think words make a person a racist. I think ideas make a person a racist. The problem is, especially as a public figure, the words you use are an indicator of the positions that you actually have. The words themselves inherently aren't the issues, but they're signals, they're signposts to an actual idea. So I'll give you an example. If I said over and all the time, if I said the N-word on stream, which people seem to assume that I do, but I don't, but then all the time I also adopted anti-racist political positions. For a lot of people, maybe not for people who are always in my chat, maybe not for people who are always in my community, who know what I'm doing, who know what I'm about, but for some people, that would come off like a mixed message. Does that make sense? The reason it would come off as a mixed message is because, whether you like it or not, signal boosting certain types of language can promote a bad interpretation of ideas, even if those ideas are in and of themselves acceptable. This is the criticism that I had of Destiny, and then I did the same fucking thing myself. If Destiny was saying the N-word in private, which he got in a whole lot of trouble for, okay. Whatever. But by admitting that he says it in private, publicly, what he's done there is given sort of a de facto implication to the people who watch him. And the implication is this. Okay. Destiny's on Twitch. Twitch has a TOS. He can't be based here. But when he's in private, when he's off the camera, you know, he's very much. That's the implication. That's what I criticize. And then I did the same something more interesting. I did the exact same thing. That a person can watch me, and they can think, oh, okay, you know, vaush plays around being a progressive, but in private, that's where he's based. I've seen people talk about me like that on 4chan. People saying that I'm secretly based. That, you know, sure, I'm a Jewish pedophile, whatever, but secretly I'm based because I'm edgy or whatever. And that's not an impression that I want to give to people, because if they're getting that impression, other people are too. So that's my position, okay? I thought those were breadtube takes, Lamau. But what I'm saying, I'd like to think that I'm discussing this with a decent amount of nuance. But anyway, that's position number one, okay? I believe it. I wholeheartedly believe it, okay? And then here's the second position. Going after people for the language they use in private, if their language in public is otherwise unobjectionable, is mega fucking cringe and makes us look like unironic autocrats.
Yep. 1000 fucking percent.
If your issue with a person isn't what they say in public, isn't what they believe, isn't what they do in public, but it's the idea that somewhere else, away from you, away from everyone else,
like, why does that matter?
They're doing things that you don't like, that aren't affecting the world around them. That makes you look like a fucking psycho. It makes us look like moralist police. Okay? It makes us look like moral police. Seriously, it's so cringe. Like, really? Now, if that stuff gets made public, then okay, those criticisms are levied. Whatever. But going after people's private language is just really dumb to me. Even if there are negative consequences to using that language in private, let me be clear, even if there are, and there can be, because if you use language like that in private, not only does it normalize the terminology, it can also lead to you engaging with communities that have worse attitudes on these positions. Remember ContraPoints' video on, was it Beauty? ContraPoints said that she would browse the 4chan LGBT board, and she would start to, ironically, use language adopted in there, like hun. Or incels, maybe. Yeah, incels. Thank you. She would start to use terminology that was adopted by these self-hating trans people. And even though originally she only used these terms ironically, you know? Down the line, it started to affect her thoughts, the way she thought of other people. And I'm gonna be real with you guys, as somebody who used to be like an actual edgy white boy libertarian dude bro high schooler, okay? There is an association between edgy jokes and being a bigot. 100%. It's very, very easy. If you hear joke after joke after joke, and you adopt that language, use it yourself, and it's all jokes. It is jokes. I'm not joking when I say it's a joke. It is a joke. But jokes are communication, and that sinks in, and you start to think about things that used to be jokes. Okay? That was me with women for a little bit. I'm not kidding. It used to be all haha girls dumb jokes, and everyone makes girls dumb jokes, including girls, by the way. But for a little while, I mean 16, 17 years old, there was a period in time where I unironically thought, maybe they were kind of stupid. And I thought that. And the reason I thought that wasn't because somebody, I want to be clear, the reason I thought that wasn't because somebody had given me some argument on brain sizes or sociological surveys or psych studies or whatever. The reason that I started to believe that was because I had read so many jokes about other people believing that I began to think it was normative. Nowadays, I make my femoid jokes, but hey, it's just jokes, okay? Anyway, those are my two positions, okay? All right? On one hand, I disagree with what I did here. On the other hand, I think this moral policing, this highly punitive, attempt at assigning moral value based on private language, it makes you look really bad. It makes the left look really bad too, you know? It's like, it reminds me of people who go after other people for engaging in problematic sexual kinks, like consensual, non-consensual, you know? Like, oh, okay, so you're a feminist in public, okay, but in private, you like to role-play rape. And then you're like, okay, it's in private. I mean, it's consensual. My partner consents. We literally agree to it. We talk about it. We have a safe word. It's the whole thing. And they're like, no, 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 no. This belies serious internal misogyny that you need to confront. Like, you know what I mean? It is weird, though. Hey, I'm going to be real with you guys, okay? Are you ready for it? I do think consensual non-consent is weird. I do think it's weird, okay? But I'm not going to bother people about it. You get it? You get me? I do think it's a little weird. I'm not going to bother people about it. If you know what? Maybe there is some internal misogyny thing underneath all that there. You know? But it's not my fucking business. If you do bad things in public, I'll criticize you for that. If you think bad things and then express those thoughts, I'll criticize you for that. Wait, hold on. Vaush, by your own standard, wouldn't you say rape roleplay leads to people normalizing rape in their own heads? The threat is dumb. Yes and no. Actual consensual non-consent, where you discuss terms with your partner and a safe word, doesn't normalize rape if done well. Because the whole point is that it takes place in the context of consent. But rape roleplay in media, like in rape porn videos or rape hentai, does normalize rape culture because it's not developed in that broader context of consensual engagement. Media consumption is very complicated, and whether we like to admit it or not, this shit does have an effect on how we think about things. We all like to think of ourselves as these moral agents that float above media, and we consume it and we put it down and we're done with it. But in reality, we are incredibly susceptible. We are incredibly susceptible to influence there. And that was also, you cannot do that it's going to re-traumatize you. Yeah, of course. Care. And I like to let people have fun. Yeah, Lilith Lovett, that's my position too. There are lots of media that's problematic. The Bachelor normalizes toxic masculinity, femininity, and monogamy. Toxic monogamy, the baddest, the worst kind, okay? There are TV shows that normalize X or promote Y, but I still think you have a right to watch them. And I'll defend your right to watch them. I only encourage you to consume it responsibly, to think about what you're reading, to think about what you're doing. You know?
Almost there.
Does that make sense?
People.
That's my position. Okay. We made the point. Okay. Toxic monogamy, what's that? If you watch an episode of The Bachelor, you'll know what I mean. Alright, I think that pretty much covers the content. You're for watching it, but against it being produced? I'm confused. Wait. No. There are going to be problematic elements in many things that people do or consume in private, whether that be media or behavior or whatever. And it's fine to criticize those things, but my principal interest is making sure that people engage with it in a healthy or sufficiently conscientious way. Okay? Alright, did we do it? Did we do it? Alright, we addressed it. Oh, and the tactical N-word is bad, by the way, because there were easier ways to ameliorate the situation, okay? Saying the N-word to a bunch of Nazis who were previously saying the N-word is admittedly a power move, and I defend the fact that it's a power move, but it's a power move drawbacks.
It seems way more interesting.
So, fun as it is to rep anarcho-Bidenism, the premier, the front man, every once in a while, you know, we have to put down the hood and the cowl, and we have to dig deep. We have to grind our feet into the dirt, crack our knuckles, and maybe get involved in a bit of criticism. Now, I'm loath to criticize Biden. I know, what with him being a communist, you know, he's our guy, but I feel like he's really slipped up this time. I don't really know how what he's doing right now is advancing the international interests of the proletariat. We'll get to that. An airstrike. First military action in Joe Biden's presidency. Now let's read up just a hot sec. Joe Biden has carried out his first military action as president with airstrikes targeting Iranian-backed fighters in Syria, is what the Pentagon said was retaliation for a rocket attack in Iraq earlier this month that killed one civilian contractor and wounded a U.S. service member and other coalition troops. The overnight strikes killed 22 people after hitting 3 trucks loaded with munitions near the border town of Abu Kamal, a war monitor said on Friday. Border posts used by the Iranian militia groups were also destroyed, the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said. It said all of the dead were from Iraq's state-sponsored Hasht al-Shabi, an umbrella force that includes many small militias with ties to Iran. The Pentagon's chief spokesperson, John Kirby, said the location of the strikes were used by Kataib Hezbollah and Kataib Sayyid al-Shahada, 2 Iraqi pro-Iran groups operating under the Hasht umbrella. This proportionate military response was conducted together with diplomatic measures, including consultation with coalition partners, Kirby said. The operation sends an unambiguous message. President Biden will act to protect American and coalition personnel. At the same time, we have acted in a deliberate manner that aims to de-escalate the overall situation in eastern Syria and Iraq. Okay. So we have some stuff to talk about. Now I'm going to open this by yelling at lefties. Very quickly, we just have to get it out of the way. If you're a lefty and you're saying that this is bombing brown children or whatever, then you need to stop. You are legitimately obfuscating the issue. It was a fairly targeted airstrike against actual military, state-sponsored, militia group. This isn't a civilian target. We have And to my knowledge, there is no evidence that a civilian target was hit, okay? Does that make it good? No. However, let's be clear about it, okay? Because I'll tell you one thing, okay? There is a very big difference between bombing a wedding and bombing an arms depot. I think we can all recognize that, I hope. And if we conflate the two, it becomes impossible to make meaningful criticisms because everything becomes everything and nothing becomes nothing. An example of this was, do you guys remember that TikTok from a person who claimed that she worked on Kamala Harris's campaign team? Just some young woman, and she was like, yeah, you know, I worked in the campaign team, and she was doing a little dance. You remember this? Now, I may not like Kamala Harris. There were people in that Twitter thread, lots of them, calling her a war criminal. What the fuck do lefties think war criminal means? What exactly? What does that mean? I'm not kidding. There were thousands of them. Like, wow, grew up so great, now you're a war criminal. Like, what do they think that means? Like, war criminal is when you work on a Democrat's campaign team. Like, everything is a war. Again, I want to be really, really clear. Leftists, if you call everything a war crime, nothing is a war crime. If you call everyone a war criminal, nothing is a war criminal. And I see lefties abuse the term war criminal all the time, by the way. War crimes are when you commit a war crime. And unless there was something in that Twitter thread that I really missed, I do not think that woman committed a war crime. To my knowledge, I suppose it's always possible. So, that's my yelling at lefties out of the way. Are we done? Are we done? Are we done? Okay. I'm a big advocate for understanding the totality of these issues because I think it helps us draw a good conclusion, a good action plan. What is this from chat? Why are they bombing Vaush? Please explain. I don't understand the teams in this metagame. Sure. Let me find a map of the Middle East.
Before hostile forces occupy it.
This is going to be a we're going to be playing it a little hard and fast with our geography lesson here. But, you know, I think we'll...
Stay alert.
Just a moment. Okay, let me open this. Can I open this in Paint? Why is this map? No. Why is this map on Twitter? Not Twitter, sorry, on Google Image Search in GIF format? What is it with people and the way they save their files? People will save anything as anything these days. They'll save any file type as any file type. They'll save PNGs with the little checkerboard shit in the background. What are these people doing, honestly?
Reporting objective capture complete.
That's a war crime right there. GIF has less compression. I don't care. Fuck you. As we were saying. This... There we go. This
Motherfucker.
is what some people call the Middle East. I'm still not entirely sure why it's called that, but that's what it's called. This country is called Iraq. Pretty cool, huh? This is a country called Syria. Syria's omega fucked right now. Lot of stuff going on in Syria at the moment. And there's a helicopter over there. Probably Biden silencing me for the scathing criticism that I'm about to levy. So let's make sure we understand this totally well, okay? So Syria is what we call omega fuck. There are like 46 competing interests that are fighting over territory here. Our boys are the fucking Rahavans. And I believe about this area, my geography is terrible. I just read this shit. Don't hurt me. They are essentially like an anarchist group, and they were getting pushed in by Turkey and blah 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 blah. Anyway, long story short, Syria doesn't exactly have what we might call a robust domestic police force. So there are a lot of insurgents and military groups within Syria that are aligned with. Now, America, I'm going to draw some American red dots in here, has presence in Iraq. We have for a long time. Ostensibly, we're allies with the Iraqi government, the new Iraqi government. We kind of pushed in place there, you know, after Saddam. But even that relationship has been strained lately on account of, among other things, the attack that Trump authorized on Soleimani, where we, no shit, fucking missile striked Soleimani in an Iraqi airport. Imagine if America had a criminal or like a bad guy here in our country, and the UK missile striked LAX to kill him.
Come on.
Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. You know, unbelievable. That was for sure a war crime, though, right? I don't think that took place in the purview of a war. I'm not sure. Whatever the case is, we're losing the plot right here. Okay, stop. American presence in Iraq. Okay, we got people, we got contractors, we got soldiers, and we got mercenaries there. Okay, now Iran doesn't like us, and we don't like Iran. But we can't do a direct war with Iran for a wide variety of reasons. It would be very bad for us and for them, okay? And Iran knows that if they go ahead fucking boots on the ground marching into Iraq, because they don't like Iraq that much either, that would also be bad for them because it would justify a coalition starting in their country. So instead, Iran funnels money into militia groups all around the Middle East. Soleimani was very good at doing this, including some in Syria. And some of those in Syria rocket strike American coalition forces in Iraq. And then, in response, Biden authorized a missile strike against an arms depot controlled by one of these militia groups and killed 22 people. 22 people that were killed were combatants, to the best of our knowledge. We are not talking about like civilians or contractors. We're talking about militia groups who've been radicalized and funded in part of a campaign against American military interventions. Which, hey, not a big fan of American military interventionism myself. What do we do about that? Well, I'll tell you what we don't do. Okay? I'll tell you what we don't do. This. We don't do this.
Don't just fucking bomb the show. So
In the
fucked.
Middle East, broadly, for like 2 decades now. We have been there for a long time. We have broken the previous record, but our country is held in long-term military occupation and war. President after president has promised a removal of our forces from Iraq and from Afghanistan and areas around. And it doesn't happen. It keeps not happening. Troop numbers decrease slightly, and then troop numbers increase. Again, we lose troops there, but then we put mercenaries in their place. And there is a reason for that. The reason is because America is not the only country that has an interest in this region. There are other powers, other countries, other resources that would be capable of seizing power in our absence. But that does not mean we can draw out an interminable presence in these countries. We cannot continue to squat in the Middle East like helicopter parents, perpetually involving ourselves in their affairs. And there's a very, very clear reason for this, okay? As long as America is present in these countries, these attacks will never stop. Ever. Our presence in the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, it doesn't matter. Any presence in the Middle East beyond embassies and military bases in relatively safe zones. Our presence in the Middle East guarantees with absolute certainty violence and death and bloodshed. Because as long as we are there, there will be states and terrorist groups and militia groups that will send men to die to get us out. And who could blame them? America and the Western powers that do have wreaked unfathomable damage to this part of the world and have been for a very long time, since we drew the borders. And constantly we have interfered. We interfere through war. We do it the deposition of leaders. We do it through the this is a very complicated subject, but our continued support of Israel in the Middle East is also a very destabilizing factor in that region. We constantly involve ourselves in this part of the world, and all of his begotten, all of his produced is right. The Middle East, right now, is no more stable than it was 20 years ago. ISIS was on us. ISIS came about because all of the dejected young men who lived in the bombed-out ruins of the wasteland we created were subjected to similar radicalizing forces that alt-righters over here in the West get subjected to. We know what ISIS propaganda looks like. And you know what? I don't blame them for being upset. I blame them for that, how they handle their upsetness. I blame them real hard. Fucking death cult over there. But you really surprised that you're going to create terrorist groups by just ruining swaths of land, decimating them, destroying their economy, and then leaving them with what? The petty shadow